Big Baby Jarrell Miller has said in several interviews this week, both before and after his fight with Gerald Washington, that he is unwilling to travel to the UK to fight the likes of Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte. He said he wants those fights. He's been talking a lot of smack about those two guys, but he's not willing to go to the UK to fight them. Now, I saw some people on Twitter criticizing Dillian Whyte for saying that he'd fight Jarrell Miller in September if the money's right. But are they criticizing Jarrell Miller for saying that he won't go to the UK? See, for me, what Dillian Whyte is saying makes more sense. Is the money right? You know, because I want a shot at the heavyweight title, and this is a very risky fight. So if I'm going to take a risky fight, I want the money. That's understandable. Whereas Jarrell Miller is saying, I ain't fighting in the UK. Is he worried about getting robbed? What is it? Because it can't be the money. You know, I saw in one of these interviews, Jarrell Miller said, well, actually, I think it was his promoter. I believe it was Dimitri Salita beside him. I mean, he looks different now than when he was fighting. He's heavier. I believe it was Dimitri Salita or one of the guys that handles him beside him in this interview after the Gerald Washington fight. And he said, Miller ain't going to the UK. And I'm paraphrasing here. He said, Miller ain't going to the UK to fight Joshua or Dillian Whyte. Jarrell Miller's the star. They need to come here. I mean, what planet is Team Miller on? Miller's the star? When has Jarrell Miller been headlining big arenas? You know, Anthony Joshua just filled out 90,000 at Wembley. And he's talking about Jarrell Miller. What planet are they on? Anthony Joshua is a far bigger star than Jarrell Miller. Jarrell Miller saying that Joshua should go to the States to fight him is laughable. That is just laughable. Even Dillian Whyte, he's nowhere near the star that Joshua is. But I would say, in my estimation, Dillian Whyte is still a bigger name in world boxing than Jarrell Miller is up until this point, because of his association with Anthony Joshua, because he did have a good scrap with him. And he's been kind of riding that wave ever since. He also had a good scrap with Chisora. So Miller versus Dillian Whyte, maybe on a Joshua undercard, or as a co-main event for some Eddie Hearn world title fight, that could do decent numbers. You know, that could be a good... I mean, the build-up for that fight, the promotion for that fight would be fantastic. Dillian Whyte versus Jarrell Miller. And remember, when Joshua fought Eric Molina, it was Dillian Whyte and Derek Chisora's beef and pre-fight antics which really sold that show, or at least helped boost sales for that show by a massive amount. It was their pre-fight antics. And the pre-fight antics with Dillian Whyte and Jarrell Miller would be similar. So in the UK, that could sell. But in the US, no. Boxing is just not there yet in the US like that. Certainly not heavyweight boxing. The public are just not behind it. They're not behind it like that. So the stuff that Jarrell Miller is saying about not going to the UK to fight these guys is unrealistic. Heavyweight boxing lives in the UK right now. That's where heavyweight boxing is at. Joseph Parker is a world champion. He's defending his title in the UK. Vladimir Klitschko, one of the longest reigning heavyweight champions of all time, went to fight champion Anthony Joshua in the UK in front of 90,000. Don't try and tell me that there's a better place for heavyweight boxing right now than the United Kingdom. Certainly, if there is, it's not the United States. Not at this point. So what Jarrell Miller is saying, it don't make no sense. And it leads me to believe that these fights probably won't happen in the foreseeable future. I mean, Dillian Whyte is obviously traveling to the US, potentially anyway, to fight on the Crawford and Ndongo undercard. But that was an opportunity, really, that came out of the blue, because Eddie Hearn is representing Ndongo from a promotional aspect, and therefore had the opportunity to have a couple of his fighters on a Bob Arum show. It's not an Eddie Hearn show. You know, he don't have control over how that show goes, and he don't have control over all the money to pay all the fighters. It's not an Eddie Hearn show. It was just an opportunity to get Dillian Whyte in the States boxing. So I think there's more chance of Whyte fighting Miller in the States, but financially, surely that fight is bigger in the UK. I mean, at the end of the day, it depends on how much money Showtime are willing to put up for it. If indeed it was on Showtime. Are Showtime willing to fork out big bucks that Dillian Whyte would want? Because Jarrell Miller, I believe, got, what, 70 grand? Let me just check. I've seen the purses for the show last night. Let me see what Jarrell Miller got. Jarrell Miller got $70,000 for that fight. So in British pounds, that's probably about 50 grand. Dillian Whyte, I'm 100% sure, has made a lot more than 50 grand for some of his fights. A hell of a lot more than that. So, you know, he's going to be paying at least double, you know, maybe triple that to even consider fighting Jarrell Miller. Because that's the kind of money that Dillian Whyte has been on for some of his fights. So are Showtime willing to stump up that kind of money for two heavyweights which are unknown to the American public? Yeah, Jarrell Miller's got a little buzz maybe in Brooklyn, but outside of Brooklyn, who the hell knows him? Nobody knows him in America. And nobody knows Dillian Whyte in America. So is Showtime really willing to stump up triple what they paid Jarrell Miller for the Washington fight? At least triple for one of the fighters? I don't know, we'll see. If they are, then there's a possibility that Whyte versus Miller could happen in the United States. But then again, maybe Sky or whatever are willing to pay more. It all comes down to money. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If there's anything I haven't covered in this video, which you think I should have covered in terms of what might be relevant to this situation, then drop it in the comment section. All right? It's happening. I'm out.